Well, really excited to dive into this conversation. Another week of the Limitless Leadership Lounge, a tri-generational conversation for emerging leaders. I'm John Gehring, joined alongside Coach Jim Johnson today and Dr. Numa Kareem. And Coach, you brought along a special guest too, Theresa Rose, who we're so excited to dive in with. So you go ahead and introduce her, and let's dive in and get some leadership insights.
Yeah, so I was able to connect with Teresa, and actually, we both are members of the National Speakers Association, and she knows a bunch of my speaker friends because she used to be in Minnesota, although now she's went to the West Coast. She's in California, so little change in weather, I would imagine. But let me just share a little bit about Teresa. We're really excited to have her. Teresa Rose is a brand and business crystallizer, strategic co-creator, two-time TEDx speaker and certified speaking professional CSP through the NSA, who works with experts in their businesses to create a one-of-a-kind visual brands that they can draw on a cocktail napkin. Using her crystallization process, Teresa helps thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and executives readying, struggle with that word, for transition to clarify, amplify, and monetize their brilliance. Teresa Rose, welcome to the Limitless Leadership Lounge.
Thank you so much, Coach Jim. Thank you, John, for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So we're looking to get in. So I'm going to start because we our goal is to help young and emerging leaders, but leadership is our main topic. But I'm curious, with your expertise in brand, can you help a young leader? How do you brand yourself as one of a kind?
Yeah, great question. So the sooner you see your crystallized brilliance, the more successful you will be throughout your life. Because one of the biggest pain points that we experience, young and old, male, female, but more female than male, is a lack of self-awareness and therefore confidence in going into situations. So the more that we know ourselves, really know ourselves so well that we can draw it on a cocktail napkin, the more we know ourselves, then the more confident we are going into any situation, whether it is the classroom or a job fair or that first big meeting in your new job once you graduate from college, all sorts of places that will help you get clear in your presentation of who you are, because everything else is just detail. Every other project that you do, that you're asked to do this job, or you're asked to make this presentation, or you're asked to sell this product, or whatever it is, those are just mechanics. Those are just details that change with the wind. What we really want to get to is clarity about who we are as an individual, or how we serve in the world. Then we can overlay all those details and all those projects and initiatives and opportunities that will present themselves.
And for you,
Actually, to delve a little deeper, John, just for a moment, is that one of the things I encourage, I do a lot of leadership presentations, and is that I encourage people to get clarity of their own personal mission and develop a personal mission statement.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? And do you have a personal mission statement? I'm just curious.
I do. I am here to be a strategic co-creator to help the world clarify, amplify, and monetize their brilliance to make the world a better place.
Wow. Very good. And what would you suggest? I'm just the last part of this is if you were working with a young leader, how would you help that person be able to find their mission?
Yeah. So I like to think of it as our brilliance leaves clues everywhere.
Mhm.
And where it is in the expression of ourselves. And what do I mean by that is our content, how we put ourselves out into the world. There's only four ways people take our brilliance in. They read us, they listen to us, they watch us, and they interact with us. So it's very clear these are the buckets of activity that we show up in every day, no matter what. Then what you can start doing to get clear on your mission and therefore your crystallized essence of who you are is start exploring where you've been shining, what you've been doing in the world. And what I like to do with my clients, my executive clients, my thought leadership clients, is I have them create a box of brilliance. And that box of brilliance is just a container of possibility, a container of amazingness that I ask them to fill. And I say, the only things that I care about for you to put in that box of brilliance is it has to be relevant. So you care. It matters. You want to keep doing that kind of work. Okay. So they need to be, it needs to be caring, and it also needs to be not repeatable. I don't want to look at the same speech twice when I'm doing my crystallization work. So putting in this various, pieces of content, what you can start doing is you can start looking at it with fresh eyes, because most times when we do our content development, whether that is writing an Instagram post, whether it's writing a blog on our website, whether it's doing a podcast interview, whether it's creating a book, right, or a speech or anything else, it usually our orientation is always just obsessing over it, worrying about it, thinking about what we need to do to present ourselves, and then we send it out and then it goes away. The power of crystallization, the power of getting cocktail napkin clarity, is turning that dynamic back inward again and looking at what you've written, really looking at what you've written, and really listening to what you've said, and really watching what you've presented, and being very intentional about self-reflection. Now, the problem with that, or the opportunity of that, if you're somebody like me, is that we can't do it ourselves. It's very, 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 very difficult to have enough self-awareness to be able to assess, analyze your content in a way that doesn't put filters and distortions around it. So that's kind of the challenge of doing this kind of self-reflective work, is we really can't see our blind spots. That's why they're called blind spots.
Sure. Yeah, it's really amazing, because what you're saying resonates, I know, so much with Coach Johnson and with a lot of our leaders who really talk about that personal mission statement as the first step in clarity. Yet all of the informal research, okay, I haven't conducted any formal research about it, but I know for a fact that very few young leaders actually have a personal mission statement. And if they do have some semblance of one, they certainly are not able to rattle it off like you just did, Theresa, and really
Uh-huh.
embody and live it. So how would you suggest a young leader go through the process of creating a personal mission statement and then knowing it and living it and rehearsing it every day?
Ooh, big question. That's a lot, right? That's a
Yeah.
lot to ask for. So what I always like to look at when it comes to a big journey is breaking it down into simple steps, right? So the first step is really paying attention to what are you taking in, especially as a young person. Because when we talk about, oh, what's their personal mission statement, it assumes they know themselves well enough to even have one.
Mm.
Okay, they're still growing. They're still growing. We're all still growing, hopefully. So, as we're all in this growth stage, what are the first steps I would ask them to do before they even start crafting their mission statement is start getting intentional about the energy that you're taking in. Because what we take in energetically, what we take in our brains, what we take in our eyeballs, all the content that we're taking in is informing who we are as we send ourselves out. So if we are stuck in thinking about what are we sending out into the world, what is our mission statement, my first recommendation would be start getting more intentional in your life just to see what you're taking in first. Are you taking in, for me, I look at it and I go, I want to take in good music that makes me feel good and lights my heart up, right? I want to take in interesting material that will make my world bigger. I'll read good books. I will learn new things. I will start filling myself out as a human being, right? And with a extreme prejudice, cut away anything that is unaligned with your highest good and your light. So things that are that at the end of watching it or listening to it, you feel worse, you feel fearful, you feel angry, you feel disappointed, you feel judged, you feel separate from humanity or separate from another person, and you feel an otherization. If you notice that any of those things are happening in your world when you're taking in your content, that content is not good for you.
Mm.
Okay, so you get clear about yourself first, and then what I would recommend that you start doing as that, you let that percolate a little bit, right? Growth is not something that just goes boom, turn it on, right? It's an evolving process. It takes time to have the seed break through the surface and start to become who it's meant to be. So what I would recommend is just have your audience really start to tune into the awareness of themselves. Because when I look at my role as a crystallizer, so I help other people get their cocktail napkin clarity, the first step that I do isn't to just create magic. It's to actually get quiet enough and still enough and centered enough so that I can notice the content, not just from an intellectual perspective, but I notice the content from an energetic perspective. I feel what people, how they light up. Okay, certain words, certain phrases, certain things that they do, I can just literally feel in my body going, oh, they care, right? You know how that is when somebody cares about something, right? You can feel it. So the key to crafting the perfect mission statement is to, first of all, know yourself well enough that you know what you care about, what you don't care about, what you like, what you dislike. You start to refine that, and then you start to notice what lights you up all the time. You start noticing, oh, hey, I really, really love writing about this. I really love talking about that. And those are like breadcrumbs to figure out what your mission statement is. And then just give yourself patience to allow that to unfold in an organic way as opposed to trying to rush it too much.
Good point. So you mentioned in your journey there trying to figure it out, and ironically, when I first heard about mission statements, when I read the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Covey,
Yep,
and ironically, I just reread it. I do a book recommendation every week, so this is this week's. But it was good. It's the third time I've read it.
I
But
love
I'm
it.
curious from your perspective. If you were advising a young leader, what would be one or two books you would highly recommend that leader read?
Yeah, thanks for asking. And that's one of my favorites, by the way.
Okay.
It totally changed the way that I looked at information when I could see the quadrants,
Mm.
the Covey
Mhm.
quadrants. It was like, whoa,
Yeah.
I really understood myself better from that
Yeah.
model. The other two books I would really recommend, one is just a gem, and that is Atomic Habits.
Mm.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
James there.
Okay,
Yep.
real good because it's not enough in my view of the world to have a mission statement if you're not actually going to execute off of that mission,
Yeah.
right? So Atomic Habits is really going to get you there. Now, this other one is a bit of a curveball, but I'm listening to it now and it's blowing my mind. And it's called Invisible Women.
Mhm.
And especially, I mean, everyone should listen to it or read it. Because it shows such a uh, just a huge impact that gender data inequity has created in business and in culture and in leadership of how we're measuring. If we're not measuring to understand gender, because the world, frankly, is measured for men. Okay. And when you start learning that inequity that is the first step towards changing it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's an incredibly important book for people to read.
Mm, yeah, great point there. And also, Teresa, kind of going off of that, talking about how obviously a man might be a little hesitant to pick up that book because they feel like, oh, this isn't for me.
Oh, yes, it is.
But yes, it is. Talk a little bit about how important it is for not just women, but also for men to
Yeah.
understand this inequity that's still exists.
Yes, it's so important because here's the thing, it's not about men versus women.
Right.
What it is, it's about being a better leader, being a better society. Okay. And so we're all a part of that. And so men make decisions in corporate environments. Men make decisions in educational environments. Men make decisions in city planning. Okay. So many things. So you want to make the best possible decisions. So this book isn't just about boo-hoo, women aren't being seen or they're not being measured or they're not being considered as we move through every fabric of our society. The reality is that there's an economic impact. There is a negative impact when not looking at the world through this broader lens, this
Right.
broader lens of half of the population in the world. Okay, so why would you want to continue to make myopic, blind spot decisions in your organization that only has previously nothing to do with you, just simply the system, the patriarchal system in which we live? If you're going to continue to operate your world and your mindset, your worldview myopically, it is at your peril.
Mm-hmm.
It is at your peril because you're not widening your aperture to be able to make innovative, informed, relevant, economically sound decisions. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a blind spot for everybody. So it's really an empowering thing for a man to understand the world in
Mm-hmm.
which he lives. And yes, he might have the privilege of being the center of how that system is currently being looked at. And it's on unsteady ground
Well,
because it's simply got too big of an impact.
Well, if I could just add to that too, I think it's so powerful when there's a book written by a female, especially like Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In,
Yes.
because so many of these, and that book was really, I think, really valuable. I enjoyed that a lot. And so many of the books on leadership and personal development are written by men. I mean, the
Yeah.
majority of them, and there are a lot of great ones.
Yep.
Covey, Atomic
Yep.
Habit, like James Clear, as you said,
Yep.
Simon Sinek. There are a lot of great ones, and that's great. But to get that perspective, I think is valuable. I would go out on a limb, Theresa, and say maybe even especially for men, just
Especially for
because
men.
women already
Especially for men.
know how women thinks and
Yeah.
feels, and a man just doesn't have that. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate that sentiment.
Yeah. And this is about data. Okay. This is about
Right.
the gender data gap. So this isn't about personal narrative or situations that you can say subjectively. We're talking numbers. Okay. So that's why it's so relevant for men to understand it as well.
Right.
Teresa, I'm going to jump on this a little deeper because I'm very curious because obviously John and I are males and you're female. I'm curious because I think it has changed, but we got a long ways to go.
Mhm.
There's still a lot more male leaders than female, although we're starting to see more female leaders, which is encouraging. But let's go back to the scenario. You're working with a young female that wants to get in leadership positions. What advice would you give her?
Ah, that is like my dream because I love, I mean, I have clients, all kinds of clients, but young women would be my sweet spot because I want them to get that clarity of themselves first so that they have the confidence to go into the rooms, to be invited to the table. Okay. And there's because of the inequity that exists, having crystal clarity will be key. So what I would encourage young leaders, young women leaders to do is to educate themselves. Okay, like the book Invisible Women, understand the system in which we live, understand where you can affect change. And then I would really look at, can they create 3 words that can be their, like a 3-legged stool that they can step onto and elevate themselves. Okay. Because I'm little. Okay. I'm wide, but I'm short. Okay. So the world is like when I go to a concert, I can't stand. Okay. Because there'll be a back in front of me the whole time, right? So part of being a woman in this world is you want to be able to stand up and be at equal footing. Everybody, I see everything you see. Okay, I'm in the same rooms that you're in. I can enjoy it at the same level, but I need something that's going to lift me up. And that three-legged stool can be those three words. So, for example, for me, my three words, I've got a lot of words that describe me. Okay, you could just ask my ex-husband. But the three words that are my three-legged stool that lift me up to a level of equity are three things that I fully embody. I embody being intuitive. I'm highly, highly intuitive. And a, 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 a resume that can back it up. Okay, as far as being a Reiki master and teaching guided meditation for years and writing books on it, right? So there's things that I can do to say this is why this is the one word that I'm going to use, intuitive. Then the other word that I'm going to lean into all the time is co-creative. I believe very strongly in the power of two or more people coming together in the spirit of unity for a single purpose. And I have a background to back that up. And then the third leg of my stool that lifts me up is I'm persuasive. I can pull the paint off the walls when I'm excited about something because I understand the key to sales. And sales can be sales by my product, and sales can be give me that promotion. Okay. And the key to sales is clarity plus enthusiasm plus divine timing, because we can't control the timing, right? Opportunity comes when opportunity comes, and it's out of our control. So clarity and enthusiasm, however, we absolutely have under our control. And so I use that ability of clarity and enthusiasm to persuade all the time. As a professional speaker, as a consultant, as a former business development partner for a global executive network, I understand those are the three things that I can lean into, right? Intuitive, co-creative, and persuasive. Boom. And now I stand up. So that's what I would encourage your leaders, male and female, to know. What are your three legs? Right? What are the three legs of your amazingness that you can get super clear on and get creative about it? Go to Word Hippo. Don't just put helpful. Everybody's helpful. Okay. Everybody's kind, I hope. Everybody is servantly. No, get creative. Okay. Start getting at and then ask for some support. Ask people specifically. These are the words that I think I am. What do you think? What other, and ask older people, ask people outside of your scope, ask teachers, ask different people from different perspectives. Like your show is different. It comes from three different perspectives, right? Those are so essential. So that's what I would recommend for your leaders to look at, your future leaders, is what's that stool for you?
But it all really starts with that clarity, right? And that's what
Mhm.
you're all about, Theresa, is the cocktail napkin clarity, which is
Yep.
so cool. Talk a little bit about that process for you, if you don't mind sharing a bit of what that was like and how much of a struggle, how many challenges came up along the way, and how long ultimately did it take you to gain the clarity that you now have?
Well, again, it changes, right? Our cocktail napkins can change
Mhm.
and grow as we are, hopefully. So I have always been a freaky word nerd and puzzler. Okay. I mean, I'm a gifted and talented kid from the get-go. So I see things in pictures. I love communicating in pictures. And to Covey, right? Stephen Covey, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Simon Sinek's golden circle, why, how, and what, three concentric circles totally transformed leadership.
Right.
So when I was struggling in my brand as a professional speaker, I said, I want to create my next book. I want to make it so good and so distinctive that I will elevate beyond everybody else. Because a lot of people speak on mindfulness. A lot of people talk about energy and
Right.
wellness and all of the different things. So I created my own. I took a week off and I went to my best friend's house and I had a bunch of post-it notes and Sharpies and I just basically brain dumped everything that I had known for years, right? Not only the alternative healing background that I had and the mind body wellness expertise, and I also downloaded all of the stuff that I did in business. I ran $100 million of annual revenue for a Fortune 100 company. I know how to get stuff done a lot. right? So I dumped all this stuff out of my brain onto Post-it notes, and then I started to just organize it and say, how do these fit? And so I created a model that has a mindfulness in the middle, and there's 9 areas of focus all the way around it, and they are movement, meditations, manifestations, meetings, messages, mentors and masterminds, media, messes, and meals and Z's, because sleep is important. Okay. So I put all of those things in this model. And then what happened is it feels good, right? It's of course alliterative, and that's by design because the brain loves patterns. 9 is a beautiful number, right? It just feels good to the heart. I love 9. I love 9. So I created it on purpose to look like that. And then I had friends in the business and they were like, hey, could you do that for me? And I was like, I don't know. And I tried and I could. And what I realized is this exploration of their content when I'm still, when I'm grounded, when I'm without distraction. So that's the whole mindfulness in action, right? Is I'm completely focused. And when I'm completely focused on someone else's material, which by the way, the first thing that kicks that whole thing off is me just getting into my heart and feeling super, super squishy about what they want to do in the world. Because when I feel like, wow, this person really wants to make a difference in the world, their mission, right? Even if they can't articulate it clearly yet, I can feel that they want to help the world in a better way, then I can feel that energy. And when I'm reading them or listening to them or watching them or even interacting with them in their coaching situations, I will take my dry erase board and I will start writing down things that I feel and see and notice. And I marry those with what also has strategic value. What will people pay for? Because at the end of the day, I'm really about helping people get a tool that they can use to create growth financially. I want that. I want them to have the power to make money at their brilliance, right? So that whittling down, whittling down, whittling down, and it's like David, right? Michelangelo's David. You know, the story goes, he had a piece of marble and he chipped away everything that wasn't David. Right? That's what we want to do with our brilliance is you don't want to have a cocktail napkin with 72 things on it. You want a cocktail napkin with 3 to 9 words max, right? And a structure, some sort of structure, whether it's a ladder or it's a barbell or it's a calculator or it's a round circle or a triangle or a square or a spiral or whatever, something that means something to you, something that means something. Because you want to be able to overlay energy, you want to be able to overlay context on top of your model if at all possible, right? Creating those unique structures that will help that tell that story of who you are.
And when you work with
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask a quick follow-up. When you work with clients, I'm assuming that listening is so important, and that can be a struggle too. We were talking about differences between genders. How much of a struggle for some male leaders, especially, can it be to listen? So talk a little bit about where that skill came from for you and how you became such an effective listener to help others.
Thank you for that question. It's so insightful. I believe listening is a full body exercise. And it is something that is so potent. It is such a powerful tool to use that you need to look at it like a full body exercise. Okay, so it's not a soft kind of, oh yes, I'm listening, I'm listening. No, 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 no. You commit to the fact that it is hard to do for everyone, and it's a muscle, and you can get better at it. And so understanding that the way that you can be a better listener, first of all, is to make sure that your container, before you even start trying to listen to another person, you got to take care of your own container first. It's an internal job. Listening is an internal job at first, and that is, have you taken care of your body in a way that your body is not talking to you, right? Pain, hunger, discomfort in any way, the body will draw your attention away from listening to someone else if you aren't caring for it, right? The other thing, and that's sleep, all those things matter. And then the other thing is, are you quieting your mind? Can you quiet your mind from the chatter? And so having a meditation practice on a daily basis, quieting your mind for a period of time. I do 20 minutes of sitting meditation every single morning. Right. And that's in addition to having other types of movement and meditation that I do, like I hoop dance, and that's a meditation for me. Walking is a walking meditation. There's lots of different ways that we can, but I'm talking sitting meditation, quiet your mind. Practice at it, get good at it, goodish, okay, because it's hard. My brain woof, 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 all over the place. It's like, a pinball machine in there, or a video game. So the notion of being a good leader, a listener, is about caring for your mind first and your body, and being able to really truly arrive for the person. And then when you're listening, you really get what I believe is the important part, is connecting heart to heart first. You connect heart to heart first, because that's the through line to everything. Everything else off of that, it's all just circumstance, trauma, luck, so many things that are built off of that, right? Different perspectives of who you're listening to, who you believe in, who raised you. There's a million things that change us and make us different from each other. But when we connect to the heart first, heart to heart, human to human, that's it. Then what happens is you start to settle into yourself, and you start to get that channel open of being able to listen to the person, really listen to the person. And you're not from the perspective of, I'm going to defend, I'm bored, I don't want to do this, how long do I have to do this, me, 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 me. You get a true connection with the person in the space that you're in, and you maintain that connection, and you watch their eyes, and you open, and you let your body be open, and you listen, and you feel you feel the words. You don't just hear the words, you feel the words. And they're like, that will keep it going. That will keep that channel of connection going, right? At least that's how I do it.
Yeah, good. Well, how about do you have a story of maybe a client you've worked with on helping them get a promotion?
Helping them get a promotion. Well, I can give you an example of someone manufacturing it
Okay.
from nothing. Okay,
Yeah.
because a lot of times promotions in certain contexts, we don't get promoted often. We create the new job, and then it becomes a promotion.
Mhm.
Right? So it's new ways of looking at things. So the way of looking at it is, I'm at position A, but I think that I can do a lot more in position B, and position B doesn't even exist, but it exists in my head, and it exists in the possibility. So I've worked with people who they are in a situation, and they got clarity on what they offer, what they bring. Okay. And they're very, very clear about, these are the types of areas of focus that I can have an impact on in the organization. And that person just started talking about it. Every conversation didn't have to bring the napkin out and show it, but they knew the words that they were going to bring over and over and over and over again. They knew that in the emails that they would write these words. They knew that in the presentations they would make, they would demonstrate those words. They would follow up afterwards, clarifying that they also used those words, demonstrating it over and over and over again. And then lo and behold, magic happens, because people want to have the love connection. People want clarity. They want that, right? We all do.
Right.
We all crave clarity in just what's going on, right? Because as soon as we understand what's going on and what this person is bringing, and they're saying the language that I need, which is solving a problem, because that's why people say yes. That's why you get promotions. That's why you'll get the money that you desire, is because you're solving a problem that somebody says, I need that. But if you don't hear the words, I need that, then you're not clear enough, right?
Mm.
It's like breadcrumbs to get us there.
Yeah. And that's actually I think about like Donald Miller and his
Hmm.
work in marketing and with story brand and all those types of
Exactly.
things. The you're not the hero, you're the guide.
Yep.
And how it's all about fulfilling that need. So
Yep.
how about a young entrepreneur? Because certainly your insight can work for any leader, whether they're somebody in a corporate setting or somebody who's just general employee or an entrepreneur. But let's focus on the entrepreneur for just a moment with
Yep.
this question. We're developing our own product or service that we think is filling a need in a particular niche. And is solving a problem, right? How do we go about and test that and gain the clarity to see whether or not we're actually effectively solving a problem?
Well, the first thing I would recommend that they do is create some visual framework for the solution that they're offering. Okay, so get it, because the more that you can whittle down your product description to something that you can draw, the more you will be able to convey that value proposition to your prospective customers, and therefore you'll make more money. So really looking at your product and going, how could we put this in a picture format of the problem we solve, right? So for example, mine is very, very simple. You can just imagine that there's a heart right in the middle of all of us that is like our spirit print. It's like the reason we're here. Everybody's got it. It's different. Okay. And we need to clarify that. Okay. Clarifying that on a cocktail napkin, drawing it. And then it elevates out of our bodies and we start amplifying that. We amplify that in all the four places that people take us in. And because of that energy of growth, it goes from clarify to amplify to monetize. Then that's where the money opportunities are. And the buyer knows us well enough now, because we're amplifying the same stuff all out everywhere that people find us, our website, our social, our interviews, our networking, hotel, bars, all the different places that real business happens. Okay. We're sending all of that out in the same consistent way. Therefore, we monetize. You can see it in your mind when I say that: clarify, amplify, monetize. Three simple words, easily understood, going from in the middle of our hearts all the way out to the world. I want every one of your young entrepreneurs to be able to see that picture of the product or service that they're offering, right? See it, because when you can see it, you can convey it consistently to people over and over and over again. And when you can convey that consistently over and over and over again, people will feel it. And when they can feel it, they say yes to it. So don't get too concerned about the mechanics of testing things, and because entrepreneurism is incredibly hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And it's important to know that you don't just need to have a strong product and service. You need to have a strong foundation of business operations. So there's buckets of, I always look at containers. Everything is a container in my world. And I look at the different containers of entrepreneurism. There's products and services, right? What are you actually selling? Or what are you offering the world? But then there's the sales bucket, and the sales bucket is just as important. It's equal, okay? Because if you don't embrace the sales element, you will feel the pain, right? And you have a marketing bucket, and you have an operations bucket, and there's other little sub buckets within all of those things. So as an entrepreneur, you really need to be able to not just lose your focus into the fun part of the products and services. That's the fun bucket. Okay. The other buckets, though, are equally important to have long-term sustainability.
Well, Theresa, as we start to close in at the end of our conversation, first of all, I'm very grateful to have your insights today. I have a two-part final question. I'm sure John will have at least one or two more questions for you as well. But my two parts is, let's take this scenario, because you have clients that are executives, is that the first scenario, I'll share you both, but I will take the first one first, but I'd like to answer both. First scenario is the person that gets promoted into, or put into a leadership position, but they already have the team in place. what advice do you give that person that really doesn't have control of who the team members are, but how are you going to get the team to buy in to what you're trying to lead them through? The second scenario, which I'd like to come back after you answer that question, would be where you are now a leader. Maybe you're starting a company and you get to choose your team members. What advice would you give that person on bringing in the right people for their team? So scenario one is the team is already in place. You've taken it over. What advice do you give that person? Second scenario is you get to bring in your people. What advice would you give them?
Awesome. So the first scenario, what I would recommend is that you understand you're entering in a container that already exists and has a culture and has a dynamic, and the people are to various levels entrenched in that scenario. So show some respect as you enter in a new container, just as we all should do. When we enter in foreign land, we want to be respectful. So we enter, regardless if we're the ones that are in charge or not. Okay. So we enter in that and we're respectful, and we look at it as a circle of people as opposed to a patriarchy or a hierarchy of any kind, right? Where there's somebody at the top and then all the underlings in the bottom as a triangle. So we're going from triangle to circle uh, culturally. All right, where we're connecting on a deeper level, and other systems of triangulation are breaking down. And so look at it as a circle and see yourself stepping into that circle and imagining that this is all of your team, and every one of them is an aspect of yourself, and every one of them has varying degrees of upset that you've entered in the container. Okay. It just is. It's like if somebody new comes into a circle of friends, right? It's like, whoa, okay, there's a new person here. We all have that. So noticing that that's one of your first challenges is how do you harmonize the circle that you're entering into? And then the way to do that is to really spend the time with each person, but try to get that cocktail napkin clarity of each person. Don't try to change them or modify anything. Just get the lay of the land first. Who are these three people, right? Or who are these people? What are the three legs of their stool? Do they even know? What do you think is the possibility? What's the dormant potentiality in there that you're sensing and you're seeing signs of, right? That you could cultivate. So not just like, what do you do? What's your tasks, right? But really try to get to know the person, because as soon as you can get to know the person really, and again, drawing it on a cocktail napkin is going to help you remember that John is, data driven and highly caring about what his how he delivers, and he's a bit of a loner, or whatever it is might be that you can see, but come up with better words than that. And that will help you with scenario one, because then everyone will start helping you and you'll start getting it and you'll start congealing, and those that don't fit that new culture, then that you'll organically start creating with a level of respect and reciprocity and collaboration, those will fall away. Right. The second scenario of you creating your own is I would get really clear about who are the positions, and not just the function, but what's the characteristics? What do I want to seek out? Right. What are the psychographics of those roles, and create those cocktail napkins. So I have a cocktail napkin for my executive assistant. I have a cocktail napkin for my fractional integrator. I've got a cocktail napkin for colleagues that are, that are my ideal client, of course, right? There's a lot of different things that we look at. So that's what I would recommend to really get clear about the psychographics and those crystallized essence of those roles that you need. And then go hire them.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So thank you.
Yeah.
Very effective, Theresa. And finally, as we wrap up, we're wondering how we can learn more about you. I know theresarose.com, which will be down in the show notes. Are there any free resources that we have? Obviously, we can work with you, and we want to know how that's possible to get in touch and potentially work with you and gain clarity. But also, what are some of the things that you put out there into the world that we can take advantage of to learn more?
Yeah, well, you know what? There's so many places. The first thing is I would just recommend please come to my website and to know how to spell it, it's there'sarose.com. So it's got an H in there. And if you go to theresarose.com/clear, you'll get you'll be able to access my course that I have to start doing your own DIY crystallization. But I also recommend, especially for your younger folks, get on LinkedIn, okay? Get on LinkedIn, find me, connect with me, start growing your network because the reality is no matter how good your cocktail napkin is of your personal brand or of the businesses that you might be launching in the future, if you don't have the people connected in your orbit that will learn about you and love you and say yes to you, then you're going to be stuck. So I would love to be a part of their professional community, and I have a ton of resources, a million articles and interviews and everything else that they could possibly want to inspire them to get that cocktail napkin clarity.
It's teresarose.com or there'sarose.com. I never thought about that. That's really creative. And it's also down in the show notes. So just scroll down if you're listening here or watching up on YouTube. Scroll down and find where you can click on that link and head on over to her website and check out that course. That sounds absolutely wonderful. Clarity. We took a lot away from this episode, including that cocktail napkin clarity that I think is also important, but a well-needed message in our world where there's so much noise. I feel sometimes like I'm being pulled in 15 different directions. Be like this. No, be like this. No, work
Yeah.
out 90 minutes a day. No, don't actually work out at all. How about keto? All these different things. Who are we? What is our identity and the clarity? I think that's such an important message. So thank you so much for your time, Theresa, and we look forward to continuing to follow your work.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it, and be well. Have a wonderful day.